We want to start off with a reminder that we are not doctors. Before you make any changes or try something new, always consult with your doctor and medical team first. Chronic illness can vary from patient to patient, so it's always best to consult with your own doctor for what is best for you.
Hello, welcome to I Be Determined. I'm your host, Mason Harvey, and I have Crohn's disease.
And I'm your host, Michelle Harvey. I'm Mason's mom, and I talk from the role of a caregiver. So today's topic is kind of going to be the first of many, and a kind of like a mini series is what we're doing, because we want to talk about biologics, but we started to try to narrow it all down and talk about Mason's situation with biologics, to talk about side effects. It was like we'd be sitting here for hours talking about it.
We're going to do that all in one video.
No, it would be pretty boring, I think. So we thought, let's establish a basis, because I think some of you listening, you may be on biologics. You may know a lot about them. You may not know much about them. And some of you listening may have no idea what they are. And they're used to treat many different things. It's not just IBD. So we're going to be talking, though, from an IBD perspective and how it goes with Crohn's and ulcerative colitis. We just know for what it's done for Mason. We're very thankful, and biologics have been great for him. But as always, the most important thing you can do is talk to your doctor, because with this disease, your doctor is going to know what is best
for you.
Yeah. We always want to remind you guys that we're not doctors, we're not scientists. And we're going to, first of all, we should probably thank and acknowledge who we're going to be using today to reference. We were able to go to these websites and to reference and get the facts right. Yeah. If you know what we know.
Yeah.
But want to make sure we're talking to you guys is based in fact. And so we've looked at the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, their website, the University of Chicago, our own hospital, Rady Children's Hospital here in San Diego, where Mason goes, and healthline.com and webmd.com. So we consulted with all of these sites in writing this and putting this together. This kind of was sparked a little bit in my mind, because we're always thinking what to talk about. Mm-hmm. And when we were at Mason's appointment, he got a treatment this week. At the end of it, this was the first time. What did they give you?
They gave me paperwork, and that was about like the biologic and stuff, and
and other medications.
We were telling the nurse about, we had a podcast and stuff, and anyways, like, oh yeah, so the paper that we just gave you, that could be a good thing you could talk about, because it has like all little facts and things. And so that's kind of what sparked the idea of this podcast, is a paper I got from an appointment.
Right. Like to kind of start hit the basics, because we have a lot we could talk about these, but I've always thought, okay, how do we get into this conversation? How do we keep it precise and limited and kind of divide it up? And so this, we thought, let's just talk about what they are, answer a few questions that you guys might have, and then just basically talk about the three families, that I guess that's the term for it, that they belong to. And so that's what we're doing today. So this is kind of your starter intro into biologics and what they are.
Biologics 101 starts today.
Yeah, you get to be the teacher. So
we're both the teachers.
Yeah,
I'm the co-teacher.
Yeah, well, yeah, sure. So the first question is, which I'm sure a lot of you have, is what do biologics help when it comes to IBD? There's a lot of medications you can take. Some people have also special diets in conjunction. Other medications, that'll be a whole nother episode. Those are things like prednisone, antibiotics, other things that are used to treat. Today we're talking about more long-term, which is biologics.
Biologics can they're supposed to stop inflammation. They're not going to cure inflammation, but they're going to stop inflammation, stop it from getting worse.
Right. Kind of like you said, or like a Band-Aid.
Yeah, like a Band-Aid.
Right.
Biologics are more of a Band-Aid, and they're not a cure.
Mm-hmm. So the thing with Crohn's disease is they don't really understand yet why the immune system isn't functioning properly. But what it does is it's causing damage to healthy tissue in their bodies. So the goal here is to minimize that, which is our next question. What is the goal?
The goal of biologics.
Yeah, which is achieving remission.
Yeah, achieving remission and
maintaining.
It's not going to make you get better. Well, I mean, it's going to make you feel better. It's not
Right.
going
And
to
it's
cure
going
it,
to
though.
help. Right. It's going to help continue to do its best to keep you healthy so you don't have more damage
However,
from
by keeping
inflammation.
inflammation down, the body has some time to actually kind of repair itself.
Yes.
So if you do go into a flare again, you will probably be a little more healthy, you know, and so there's a better chance you can fight off easier with the biologics and stuff.
They help you maintain a healthier lifestyle. And a lot of people, like, we were kind of confused when Mason was diagnosed, and we thought, oh, okay, so he's going to go into remission. That means it's gone. But
Yeah, I
it's
don't
like,
need it.
no,
You have
it's
to get through
not.
for the rest of your life, you know.
Right.
And
And
maintain your
because, like Mason said earlier, it's not a cure.
no,
So this is
it's
just
just a
used.
Band-Aid.
It's just for managing your symptoms and inflammation. So how do these biologic medications work? Because obviously you have inflammation going on.
Yeah.
So what does a biologic do? This is a very short answer because this is very complicated, actually, what they do.
Yeah.
So again, this is we're just kind of basics here, so you guys have an idea, but this could definitely be much more detailed. So they target specific proteins in the body that are potentially involved with the inflammation. And it's the other issue, though, with this is it's not possible at this point to determine which biologic out there will help each person.
So you just kind of have to guess which one will work.
So it's not like, you have a headache and you go take ibuprofen or you take an aspirin or Tylenol, whatever it might be, you're going to get relief. But with biologics, you're not sure until you take it if it's going to work or not.
So it's like a little gamble you have to play.
It is. And like we mentioned in a previous episode, while you're going through this, your body could be getting worse.
Yeah, it could be getting worse while the biologic isn't helping.
Yeah.
And there is a time for any biologic, if it even does work, there's still a little time in between when it doesn't work and it starts working because it has to get kickstarted.
Right.
So
it's not immediate.
Yeah. So it's not like you get one and it's like, oh, it's not working. We'll just move to a different one. It will take almost a few months for one biologic to start working. And in that few months, your body could get worse, and then it'd be really hard to stop. So
So it's not it's not easy.
No,
So
there's no way to recognize right away.
It's not that simple. So there's a lot going on that they're testing and looking at to see if it's working. And it may help some little things, and then it may not help other issues. So that's why it's very important to work closely with your doctors and to be open and honest about all your symptoms so they know
what's going on.
So you can go to the next biologic and quickly move through until you find something that does work for you. So there is precision medicine being done, and we've had the fortune of meeting some of the companies that are working on these, where they are looking at trying to do more diagnostic procedures where to see if we have this biologic, will this work for you? They do the test, determine, no, doesn't look like it. Let's move on to something else. So it saves you time and damage to the body.
The future of biologics is not out yet.
Which is really cool. That's a huge innovation.
Something to look forward to.
It really is. And so the other question is, how are biologics made? And again, it's going to be very short answer. Do you want to answer that?
So it says a class of drugs that are produced using a living system, such as microorganisms, plant cells, or animal cells.
A complicated process to get these as well. And there's a reason why these are so expensive. However, I do think they could shave some of the costs off.
Could you please make it a little cheaper? We understand why it's expensive, but please shave some money off.
But the innovation that goes into discovering these and what they need to do is one of the reasons why these are so pricey. Again, much more complicated than that, but basically you're not going to find that in an aspirin. So that's there's a very big difference in treatments or even other medications like prednisone or things like that. It's not going to be the same way that these are created. Speaking of the aspirin, so that's a small molecule drug, where a biologic is a large molecule drug. So an aspirin can consist of as few as 21 atoms in one, whereas a biologic is made up of over 25,000 atoms.
It's a big difference.
Yeah. So that's just for reference. And again, this all varies. This is just, we're trying to give you the best picture we can to help you understand some of these differences. Most biologics, which you're going to hear us try to pronounce as we I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun for all of you. So we'll do our best though. But most of these you're going to notice end in
mab.
Mab.
Vedolizumab, stechinimab.
Right. infliximab,
yeah.
they all end in mab. And I never really thought about it. And then
But what does
so it's
mab
like,
stand
but
for?
why do all these biologics
End in mab.
end in mab? And that's kind of how you can identify too. If you hear a medication, that you can kind of identify that it's a biologic just by hearing that it ends in mab. And that stands for monoclonal antibody. And so that's what you're hearing at the end of these. So one of the other questions, this was a big question for Mason when he was diagnosed, because he did not like the idea of having to get an IV
infusions and shots for the rest of my life, because at the time I really hated needles, and I was like, I don't want to get this for the rest of my life.
And it's not fun for anyone. It's not, you get used to it, I think, but
I've gotten used to it.
Yeah, but it's still, it was, so his question was, well, can't I just take a pill?
Yeah. Is there just a magical pill out there that will I'll be able to take once a week, and it will cure it, not cure it, but it will treat it like an infusion or a shot.
And there are some of you listening who say, well, I do take a pill and I do take biologics. So I do take something that, and so there are different medications again, that's going to be under a separate category, and that you are taking pills daily, and there are different things you can do. But for this instance, like a biologic can't be taken orally because it's going to metabolize too fast. The body would digest it very quickly.
And you don't want to get digested because then it can't do its job.
Right. The idea here is they need the medication to bypass the stomach.
So they give a shot in a vein, no, that's an infusion. They give an infusion in a vein, or they give you a shot in the leg, arm.
And it's subcutaneous, so it's under the skin. So depending which, some of these are injections, some of them are IV. But really there's a reason why there's no pills. That's why it's just more effective this way. And another question that I think we definitely asked, and I hear a lot of other people ask, is, okay, so when I go into remission, can I stop taking the biologics? No, right.
Yeah, just no.
Right. As of right now, they are working on research to see, I guess his doctor did mention there's research going into what happens when you come off of these, and can you safely come off of them when you're in remission. But the problem is going back onto them, because more than likely, if you do stop taking a biologic, you will become symptomatic, and you're going to start going
back into the flare. Yeah, you're going to go back into the flare.
And the problem is, if you try to go back onto the biologic that worked for you, then
you built antibodies, and it's not going to respond to it.
Right.
So then you're going to have more trouble by getting out of the flare, and you're going to have to try taking some other biologics.
Exactly.
So if you've really found a biologic that works for you, and you're finally out of flare, you're comfortable, you're not in a flare, and you found a biologic that works for you, it's best you don't change it, because what if there isn't another biologic that works?
Right. And now you've just limited yourself, because now you've got a problem. And so because there's not a whole lot of research yet into this, the advice to Mason was, this is for life, to look at it that way. Don't look at it as, well, maybe I can come off of it. So it's like the doctor
look at it like it's for the rest of your life.
That's what the doctor did. And I think that was smart. I think at the time it was very upsetting for you, because it was like you didn't want to hear that. But I think it puts you more into an acceptance, and you'd be more happy. Now it's like, if it changed, that'd be really cool. But it helps you kind of accept that this is a commitment, and this is something that we're going to start on. And, you don't want to just kind of intermittently come off of it and then go back onto it. And so some of you have to come off your biologics for surgeries or for cancer treatments, for different things. And so there, it's important to talk to your doctor and see, what it looks like coming back onto it after treatments or after surgery. But for the most part, it's recommended that you continue
or keep
the course, because a lot of people are under the misunderstanding that the biologics are curing the Crohn's. And so it's like, wow, I'm doing so much better, I can come off of this. But it's like, no, that's what's keeping you like this. It's
you
not
you don't want
right. So you're taking away the very thing.
It's trying to help you, and you don't want to get rid of it.
Right. And maybe things will change, but as of right now, that's the information we have, and that's what we're going with.
What does the future hold? We don't know. It will hold a cure, possibly.
Hopefully a cure. And that would be even better. And if the cure isn't possible, better treatments.
Ones that build antibodies, But for now, we just got to keep doing what we're doing.
Right. And I know something we're not going to talk about today, but a lot of you in the back of your minds, what is really scary about these are the side effects. And that's why we're hoping for better treatments that don't have so many potential side effects.
Yeah.
And not, there isn't a whole lot of people that are affected by them, but I do know there are some side effects that are extremely common. There's some more severe ones that people aren't really affected by as much, but there's a lot of little symptoms. And we'll talk about that later when we talk about Mason and his experience with Biologics. So we're going to say that for another episode because that is a lot.
So stay tuned.
There's a lot of symptoms and side effects. And oh my gosh, we're going to sound like a commercial.
Yeah, those commercials. You will feel perfect, but don't worry. There'll be a death side effect. There'll be a heart attack.
Yeah, it's like where you're going.
Things, but there's a chance you'll feel
wow, so
better.
I'll feel better from the Crohn's, but
not by this.
But this is going to be a new problem. So sometimes, yeah. So there is that question. And yeah, and that's an important discussion to have with your doctor. We'll go into that in another episode. So we're going to break this off now into discussing the biologic families, like the different classes.
The three.
And there's three main ones.
Three main.
There may be more. So if you're listening and we aren't covering all of them, this is just what is known to us. And these are the three main ones that are mostly discussed. Here's where we're going to have the fun.
Yeah.
Trying to pronounce these names.
Let's go.
We'll do our best. So the first class is TNF blockers, which is tumor necrosis factor. And this was the first class of biologics approved
to the United States.
So these are kind of like the old school biologics.
Originals.
And this was the class Mason was started in. One of the first biologics is in this group. I think that it's just had more studies done and more research than a lot of the newer ones.
Yeah, newer ones.
Right. So there's that too. How does a TNF blocker work? They block a small protein that causes inflammation in the intestine. Again, you can look into this. It's actually quite interesting how TNF blockers work. I was going to try to explain it all.
We'd be here for hours.
We would be here for a very long time. Originally, I believe these were developed more to treat cancer. And it was one of these things that was passed off onto these guys because it's like, oh, hey, it didn't really work as well for the cancer as we hoped,
works well for these
but it works well for this. So I believe that's what I've heard. Some examples of TNF blockers. So you can see if you'll know what class you're taking if you're listening and taking one of these is Remicade, which is like the most popular, probably everyone's heard of with Crohn's disease.
It's usually the first choice that the doctors go to.
That's what Mason started with was Remicade.
And it's for me, but it will work for others.
Right. It did fail him, but we found out, at least we know that. But Remicade is also known as infliximab. So there's that mab again. The other one is Humira, which is adalimumab, I believe. Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce that name. But and then there's Simponi, which is golimumab. And that's then Cimzia, which is certolizumab.
Or
something like that.
I think that is.
But probably the popular names you've heard them by is Remicade, Humira, Simponi, and Cimzia.
Yeah. Those are the popular names.
Right.
We're not going to science names.
Right. And we're not as good at these because we don't pronounce these all the time because this is not in Mason's class.
No.
So like we said, they're not going to be effective for every individual.
And it's different for everyone. And so are biologics.
Yes. And with this one, though, this tends to be faster acting than some of the other classes. So like they kind of like within the first 8 weeks, they'll kind of know if it's working or not. And for Mason, they actually tried, they were increasing his dosages to see if it would work. So like Remicade is given by IV, and that's every 6 to 8 weeks. 8 weeks is the goal. Some people are 6. They were at one point, Mason was every week. And to see, because he was so severe, but they were trying so hard to see if this was working, and eventually was determined it failed.
It still work.
So Remicade, like I said, is given by IV, but if you're on Humira, Simponi, and Cimzia, they're injections. And you may at home have something like some type of arthritis or skin conditions, and maybe hearing some of these, and you might also take these and not realize they work for other. Yeah, you just don't take them as frequently. You may not take the same dosages, but you may also be taking these and not have IBD at all. So that's what's kind of interesting. It's really interesting to learn about these.
They work for different things.
They do. And they're anti-inflammatory. This is how they work, is by being anti-inflammatory and immunosuppressive. So
which isn't great, but I mean, it's better than being in a flare.
Right. And that's why some of you, and it's really important that some of you are not as immunosuppressed as others, because depending on how much you take, if someone's taking it every 8 weeks versus someone taking it every 4 weeks, it's going to be different.
Yeah.
So this is why it varies, and some people don't think they have a suppressed immune system, and other people are more concerned about it. They do. And so the next group we're going to talk about is the integrin. It might be integrin blockers, the receptor antagonists. So this is the next group that Mason was put into. So this was the third one you were put into.
The third one,
technically speaking. But after Remicade, this is one of the ones we went to, because the doctor talked to us saying like there's different options. Humira was not one of them because
it's in the group
in the same group.
It's in the group with Remicade.
Right. So basically the way our doctor looks at it is, if one family of biologics fails you, you're not going to really be able to try any of those, because they all operate off the same way.
Yeah.
So for Mason with his Crohn's, it didn't help. So they didn't want to waste their time trying something else
in the same
family. So, which is interesting, kind of like we discussed before, how we think that Crohn's is going to branch off at some point, and because it's so interesting how you can have the same disease and it has to be treated differently.
Ways,
and so it's like, it's like each person's affected differently. So after we were in the TNF blockers, that was kind of closed off to us. So this is what he's taking right now.
I'm currently taking, and it's doing good.
And what these do is they prevent white blood cells, that the ones that cause inflammation, from entering the GI tract. So this is more gut specific. So if you hear about people saying, well, Entyvio's gut specific, that's why, because it's targeting those specific white blood cells that will cause that inflammation. And so because of that, it's an anti-inflammatory, and it's also immunosuppressive. But
it's still not great, but I mean, it's necessary.
But it's not a total body immune suppressor, because this one is targeted more at the gut. So the different types that they have, and so Mason's on this one. You can share that because it's yours.
So what I'm on is Entyvio, which is vedolizumab.
Yeah.
We know how to say that one because we say it a lot.
Yeah. And there's another one that I hadn't heard of yet, which is Tysabri.
Yeah,
I think that's the best way to do it. Natalizumab is that one. And that's also approved. But I believe with that one, there might be some different risks. So I think Entyvio is the preferred, but I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, the first one to maybe go to maybe.
But I know that was what we were presented with. And Entyvio is an IV infusion, and that is supposed to be given every 8 weeks.
8 weeks.
And for Mason,
I'm on it every 4 weeks.
He's on every 4 weeks. So, again, this is where we look at the immune system and the differences. He's going to vary from another patient who's on it every 8 weeks. And also something with Entyvio that a lot of people are not aware of, it is slower to act. It does take longer. So
you have to be a little patient.
You do. And
if it works, it's worth it.
You sometimes have to mix, like with you were taking prednisone as well. So there's sometimes things you have to use kind of like to bridge that gap where you're trying to see if it works. It's why it's so complicated, because
start the engine.
They know it can take a longer time. So they're not sure if it's either not working, if it is. So like for Mason, they had him on steroids, and then we have to wean him off of the steroids.
Steroids aren't great.
Right. Because it's definitely not for kids who are trying to grow because they
stunt growth.
So we had to do that and then kind of see if his body could let the biologics take over, and it wasn't relying on the prednisone, and then to see if it was fully working. Just kind of the method we did for Mason. So he's on Entyvio, but he's also on a second biologic.
Double treatments, dual biologics,
which we'll explain in another episode, because that's very rare. It's maybe, well, it's not even, I would say, common, but it would be more common in an adult than a child, but it's still not common. They're working on this because they're starting to discover that some people are difficult to treat, which Mason is considered a difficult, hard to treat case. And so kind of what we're finding is you take different classes and combine them, and it may work better than one single class for him. So maybe at some point, if he had to, he could revisit the TNF blockers, but combine with something else. It might work better than
just it by itself.
So after Remicade, the next one, which he was excited about because it was just an injection.
It was an infusion.
Right.
Yeah.
It is these ones are called interleukin blockers, and they target specific proteins. So the interleukin 12 and interleukin 23. So short term,
IL-23, IL-12.
Right. And these play a key role in inflammation. These are another part of your immune system. And it's super interesting to actually research this and see how this all works. We have learned so much. It's very interesting, but we're not going to go into that detail today. It's a very long lesson and one we probably shouldn't be teachers for.
So stay tuned if you
Yeah.
I get taught misinformation. No,
Yeah,
we
maybe we'll find a doctor that can come on and we'll
Oh,
be
yeah.
willing to talk about it.
Special episode.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
So for Mason, he is taking something called Stelara, which is ustekinumab, and that one targets the IL-12 and the IL-23. Those are the proteins that are associated with inflammation. So, and again, all of these are. It's just a matter of finding which ones are specific to each Crohn's patient. He started on Stelara, and it was first. I think that was first like plaque psoriasis, psoriatic arthritis. It wasn't intentionally here for Crohn's.
Yeah.
Again, this is just another one they found, hey, this works. And so
Interesting.
for Mason, someone like him, it's recommended every 8 weeks.
But then again, I'm on it every
Mason,
4 weeks.
He's on it every 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So he's on just the recommended 1 biologic, he's on 2, and instead of being on the recommended 8 weeks for each one, he's on 4. So it's a little nerve-wracking
system.
Yeah, it was not an easy decision, but for him, his body is not destroying itself the way it was, and we're preserving intestines and saving body parts
and everything.
Yeah. So that's important. So getting that healing for him is very important. So Stelara, that's in a nutshell, that's how it works. Way more complicated again, but that's basically how that works. And there's a newer one that just came out and a lot of patients are using it and finding success with it. But that's Skyrizi, which is
try to pronounce it.
risankizumab.
Risankizumab.
Yeah.
There we go. I did it.
So there's
first try.
And that's Skyrizi, and that just targets the IL-23 as opposed to like the IL-12 and IL-23.
It only targets one.
Right. So that one's given by IV, the first dose, and actually Stelara too. The very first one, it's called your loading dose, is by IV, and then after that, it's injection. So that's how that works, and that's a subcutaneous injection as well. There's another one that is Omvo. It looks like mirikizumab. I don't even know what that one is. I haven't heard of it. I only found it when I was doing research for this. So it looks like there's maybe something else in the works as well, or someone listening might be like, oh no, I'm taking that. It's been out for a while, or I don't know.
If you know how to pronounce it.
No.
Just let us know in the comments.
No, but that one is also by injection. Yeah. So, and these are also anti-inflammatory immunosuppressive agents. And this one is more of a whole body suppressant versus like Entyvio, which is targeted more to the gut.
Which isn't as great for your immune system, but if it works, it works.
Right. Also, so for Mason, he was on this for like 10 months, 11 months before we had significant change. So this one took a while. And I think we were getting to the point where the doctor was thinking it wasn't working, but he was doing so much better. It was like, but it is working because his joint pain was gone with Stelara. Like he had debilitating joint pain. And with this one, within like a month, 2 months, I don't remember, you were swinging a golf club, like a full swing. It was
like crazy.
Yeah. It was all of a sudden his arthritis, like the pain was gone. So that was huge for him. That was huge. And so that was good. And then we had a lot of the other challenges that you guys all know about with Crohn's. And that did take a lot longer. Slow changes, little changes. He was doing better, but
they were going uphill.
And so the doctor's plan was to kind of do a bridge. She was going to want to put him onto Entyvio, but because he was doing so well on the Stelara, she didn't want to take him completely off of it. And so her plan was to start the Entyvio with the Stelara and then remove the Stelara and keep him on Entyvio if that worked. And so that was, and then at the same time he was taking prednisone.
Yeah.
And so what happened is he got on them both and he just did great, really well. And so she thought, okay, this is the magic combo. And we're going to save the struggles with insurance and what happens when you try to put a child and even an adult onto 2 biologics, because that is not approved yet. And so it gives insurance a lot of room to say no. And they have there's a lot of validity to why they're saying no. So we'll save that for another episode. And so we kind of discussed our insurance fighting. You may have heard if you watched that episode. It was a very good episode, riveting, I think. And so you should go back and watch it. But yeah, yes. And that would kind of help you guys to follow the process of how to get something approved. And that was one of our major battles. That wasn't the first one with this, but it was probably the second or third. And so anyway, so that's a whole nother episode on why these are so difficult. But luckily for Mason, he's able to take 2. And I think that's going to become more popular. And
more Crohn's patients
having
uprising.
Yeah, because I think there's a reason why some people in the groups that I'm in, they'll hear some of the people saying, I've tried every biologic and they've all failed. And it's like, my first question would be, okay, did you take 2 of them? And most times, no, because the doctors know how hard that is to get and because there's not a lot of research on it. So a lot of times it's like they're interested to hear Mason's story and then other people jump in who are also on 2. And I think it's becoming more common. I'm seeing in the adult group where someone else has had that experience. And it's like, oh, so you thought you didn't respond to TNF blockers, or you thought you didn't respond to the IL-12 or IL-23 blockers, you thought you didn't, but then when you combined them, you found out, oh, so maybe this was helping this, and this was helping that. But again, it all takes time and money, and it's stress. It's a lot. So there's an emotional battle that goes on with all of this that's not even discussed. We're just discussing this in a very, book manner, just reading you the facts here, but it's definitely a roller coaster. It's not an easy decision. So if you're out there listening, we'll be doing more episodes on these. This is just to kind of give you like a basic idea of what a biologic is. They're used for a lot of things, and it's good to know, good information. We'll get into other stuff later, and we'll call it
tuned for
a day.
The next interesting, wonderful.
I know. I hope this wasn't too boring.
Yeah.
But now that I have them, like, wow, this is the science behind this is amazing. So I've discovered something I'm interested in that I had no idea before. So yeah, I can talk about this forever. Mason knows, my husband knows. It's like when I learn something new, because I'm always trying to learn. It's like, guess what? And guess how this works. It's just so fascinating. Story to listen to. Yeah, I'm glad I can provide that entertainment. So hopefully this wasn't, this was something that you learned something. Maybe you didn't, but yeah. Yeah. So, but this is kind of the basis. I think we need to start here before we start talking about everything else. So thank you for listening to that. And thank you for putting in the work and kind of the homework into learning about something that is so complicated, but such a basic first step you need to know about, I think. So, all right. Well, you guys can follow us on Instagram at Team IB Determined. You can also listen to us on any podcast station, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and also on Buzzsprout. We do have a link on there showing all the different podcasts we're on. Stations, but yeah, give us a search, look up IB Determined, and you should find us. And some people prefer to
watch us. If you want to watch us, go to IB Determined on YouTube. And if you're on YouTube, you're watching us, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want to be notified every time we post a video, then like the bell. Every time I usually say this.
He does. And if you've watched us enough, you know what he's about to say.
You know what I'm going to say. If you know what I'm going to say, if you know what I'm saying, put that in the comments.
I feel bad.
We don't get many comments. So, it makes me sad that no one gives us comments. So,
yeah. And we have been
getting comments. And we appreciate you giving comments because it's really fun.
And the feedback and messaging.
Any ideas for like future podcasts if you want.
Like what's important to you, because that's what it's all about. And maybe something you've learned, something that other people may not know about, tips,
tricks,
anything would be helpful for you.
Your biologic, little things like that, you can share.
Yeah. So thank you guys for listening. Yeah. Have a good day, weekend, evening,
holiday season,
whatever it is. Yeah, we're heading next week is Thanksgiving.
Yay!
And it's also going to be the conclusion to our snack and beverage drive for the San Diego Blood Bank. Yes. So we're going to be doing that. So it's going to be a busy week. We have 150 cookies to make because we're like, hey, what can we do? Let's give away free hot chocolate and free cookies
for if you donate.
Right. So if you donate any snacks or any picture of Santa. So How cool is that? But my
should
brain
really do it.
didn't really do like the whole mathing on the time thing here. And I have a Thanksgiving dinner. I'm also preparing. And 2 days after that, we're going to be handing out a ton of free cookies. And we're also, so with our Good Karma stands, one of the deals has always been, it's got to be homemade. Nothing like store
can't just buy
bought.
it.
So it's supposed to be, because it's our appreciation. And so putting your love, putting your thankfulness into these treats. So we have a lot
to do.
to do.
It's
Mason's
gonna be
been
worth
part of
it
the
to see the
planning
smiles on
process.
people's face.
Yeah, and he's gonna get really good at flooding and royal icing.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Making
So
hot chocolate, putting in the cups.
yeah.
Things like that,
So it'll be
This is-
fun. So we're looking
yeah.
forward to that. And if you are local and listening to us, please stop by. We'd love to see you guys and say hi.
Yeah.
And
Nice to say hi.
yeah,
just
we'll also
donate.
have Karmatude candles, which we
Yeah.
haven't really talked about too much on here. We'll
Oh,
probably
yeah.
do an episode on those too.
That'd be
So
fun.
we'll also have those. So we're looking forward to that. So hope you guys all have a happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Have a happy Christmas.
Yeah, we'll be back before
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
Don't worry. We
But
will.
just make sure you get in spirit before next time,
Yep.
You got to stay merry the
next-
whole holiday season.
He's even wearing Christmas shirts. He's wearing
It's
one right
I'm not
now.
wearing a Christmas hat right now, but I am wearing a Christmas shirt right now.
Yeah, he is. So he's been ready. So after Thanksgiving, we'll still acknowledge it, but we're gonna be fully moved on
Yeah.
to Christmas next time we see you guys. So
Have some little Christmas music playing in the background next time.
that'd be cool.
That'd be fun, yeah.
Yeah, it'd probably be more fun than what we talk about.
Just watching us dance to Christmas music.
I know. I mean, we're talking about Crohn's disease.
Yeah.
Christmas music's
Christmas
more
and
fun.
Crohn's. Yeah.
So
Fun.
anyways, guys, thanks for listening. And we will see you guys on the next episode.
Stay merry. Bye.
Bye.
We hope you will stick around, tune in, and reach out to us with your own journeys. We are excited to give you an inside view of what it takes to be a caregiver and what it's like to be a patient.
And most of all, we hope you'll maybe be able to apply something you hear on here that might help you in your own life. Sometimes life changes, and it's all about how you handle the journey.